Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are back live on Born to Lead Leadership broadcast. And today, like I had 2 weeks ago, I have Dr. Victoria Daaor with me. And today we're going to be tidying up on emotional intelligence in leadership and organization. We're trusting that we'll learn a number of lessons. For me, it's an eye-opening lesson. I've gone through certain slides and I've come across some interesting things that I probably took for granted over time. But today, just like I mentioned earlier, Dr. Dao will be breaking down the issues for us and we'll see how intelligence or emotional intelligence ties up with leadership. Once again, you're welcome and thank you for being a part and parcel of today's broadcast. Now, just before we proceed, let me say this, like I've always said, if you're online and you have any comments to make, please, depending on what platform you're using, perhaps Facebook or YouTube, just simply type in a comment at the comment section and post it, and we'll come across the comments, we'll read the comments and discuss on the comments. If you even have questions or require clarity on some aspect of today's discussion, please feel free to type in your comments and send them across to us. And you can be sure that we will respond appropriately. So at this point, I would like to leave the floor for Dr. Dow to proceed with today's lesson. And once again, I thank you all for being a part and parcel of today's lesson. Let's go on, Dr. Vicky Dow.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me, Shadrach. Sorry I couldn't make it last week. I was a bit down, but I'm much better today. So we'll be talking about emotional intelligence in leadership and organizations. And just a quick refresher, the last time, can you hear me clearly or can you hear an echo?
Well, I can hear you clearly, so it depends on the guest or on the listener. Okay, there's a
Wow.
slight echo
Okay,
now.
fine. Maybe I should just go ahead.
All right.
I'll just give a small overview of what we've done so far. We talked about emotional intelligence, what it is, and how it affects us. And one of the things we said is that emotional intelligence is about understanding people's emotions, understanding how people think, and then the effect that it has on you as a person. You're supposed to be able to regulate your own emotions from how people act. Shadrach, I need your feedback now. Is it clearer now?
Yes, it is. On my own end, it's
Okay,
clearer now.
thank you.
You're
Much
welcome.
clearer.
Yes.
Okay. So, uh, as leaders, emotional intelligence, like we said, is what will keep you on the job. After your intelligence has gotten you the job, your emotional intelligence will keep you in the job and will help sustain relationships within the job and workplace, even with people in your general life. So, today, we're going to try to see, okay, fine, I have emotional intelligence, but what impact does it have on my style of leadership and the organization I work with? Any form of, is there any impact at all? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Shadrach, next slide, please.
All right. You're on.
Okay, I just put this illustration is just to show how some of us are as leaders, right? The first picture says, excuse me, first picture is talking about an employer all pictures are about an employer and an employee, a new employee. In the first picture, the boss is saying, you're the first employee for my coffee with the boss program. And then the second one, the boss is saying, feel free to say whatever is on your mind. Don't hold back. give it to me straight. And the employee goes ahead to say, my chair has a squeak. And the boss blows up saying, you ungrateful, whiny wretch. I think that resonates with a lot of us. We tell people, I like it when people tell me the truth, tell me the way it is straight. But when people actually say it the way they feel it, we get offended and we strike back at them with hurtful words. So if you're not ready to receive feedback, because feedback can be negative, it can be positive. You're not ready for feedback as a leader, you might need to work more on your emotional intelligence so that you don't, get caught up in this kind of situation. Next slide.
It's on.
Shadrach, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, fine. If you can hear me, let me just wave your hand. Let me know you can hear me. Okay, fine. Now, people look to a leader to provide supportive emotional connections for empathy. Sometimes, as leaders, we think we're doing our best when we withdraw, when we act all hard, when we don't show any emotions to our employees. We think that that is who a perfect leader is, someone who does not show any emotion. But that is not right. The good leader is the one that knows when to show the proper emotion. There are proper kinds of emotion for certain situations. So if you have a staff who just got a message that they are bereaved, you will not come in as a boss and insist that the person should get back to work. You are expected to show some empathy at that time. That's not a time to insist on the person doing the job. You need to be able to react and respond to your staff appropriately as the case requires. If your staff has done well, you praise them. If they've not done well, you tell them straight up they've not done well. You should be able to make them feel comfortable to share what they feel with you. Next slide, please. Now, leadership styles that create resonance. I think I did some more editing, and I probably didn't give you that one, Shedrack. So let me just say something before I talk about this slide, right? There's a way your leadership style can be that you're either projecting resonance, or you're projecting
Okay.
dissonance. There are two styles. Is either resonance or is dissonance. And just like the name implies, when it is dissonance, there's discord, there's a problem, there's no flow between you and the people you are leading. But when it is resonance, it means that things are flowing in a better, there's a better flow. I think that's clear right now, right? Shedrack, I'm relying on you to be giving me feedback. Just wave at me. That's okay, right? Okay, fine. So
Yeah.
let's go straight to leadership styles. When we talk about visionary, I think we hear that language a lot. Is a visionary leader, especially amongst our politicians. Whenever they are trying to campaign, everybody's campaign slogan says visionary, very visionary. But well, this is what it means. So if you don't think the person is visionary, please don't say it. It means that the person can move people towards dreams, uh, uh, and even change. The visionaries can help you adapt to change, and if the change involves a new vision, they are able to carry you along. But that's a visionary leader. A visionary leader sees ahead before other people, sees where they want to go, and is probably the one who has to sell that dream, that vision, and also helps you when you have your own vision to help you achieve it. That's what a visionary leader does. Now, coaching is another style. Coaching connects with a person. It connects what a person wants with organizational goals. In other words, there has to be a blend between some form of connection between what I want as a person and my organizational goals. And the coach, the leader who is the coach, will make sure that as much as possible, I don't feel frustrated doing what I'm doing, but that in the course of achieving organizational goals, I am also growing as a person. I'm also receiving some fulfillment on the job. That way, resonance occurs, and I don't feel that inner battle between me and my work. A good leader is able to ensure that all the staff under him are able to achieve their own personal goals as they achieve organizational goals. And you can't do that without interaction, because you need to know what your staff have as personal goals. And the only way you can find that out is when you interact with them one on one. Now, unfortunately, I have to. Okay, fine. Affiliative. This is the leader that connects people to each other. So I know you're not very good at writing reports, and Mr. B can write good reports. So I say, okay, Sarah, to make your reports better, why don't you talk to Vanessa so she can help you with your report? And then I meet Vanessa and I tell Vanessa, Sarah is very good at taking pictures, but she's not very good at putting it down in words. So could you help her, since you have a better skill at putting it down in words, while she teaches you how to take better pictures? You see, that way, I'm not putting anybody down. I'm not making one staff feel he or she is better than the other staff. I'm just trying to show them that they have different strengths and how to capitalize on each other's strengths to achieve goals. That's an affiliative leader. And then democratic. This one values people's input and gets commitment. A democratic leader would usually not just take a decision without asking members of his office or staff or group what they think about it. One thing leaders should know is this: as long as you give people the opportunity to air their views, even if you don't take their own views, at least they had an
Okay.
opportunity to speak. So they know that you
Ah,
listened, but superior arguments took the day. But when and most times as leaders, you must never think that the people under you have no sense. They don't know what they are doing. They probably have the solution to what you've been cracking your mind for over days and weeks. If you had probably just brought it out in the open, someone would have given you an answer almost immediately.
okay.
So, uh, um, most leaders use most good leaders use a bit of all this. You hardly find somebody just in one place. Someone might say a football coach, but if you heard when Mourinho was leaving Chelsea, what the players were saying, the players were not just looking, he was not just a coach to them. He was affiliative, he was visionary, he was democratic. He had gone beyond just being a coach to being a mentor in life's issues to them. And that made him very special to them. And that's why he had their commitment. Even though the whole world sees him as crazy, he can blow up, he can act up. But the people he was working with believed in him because they knew that behind all that was a man who was after their common goal, their common interest, who was after them becoming better people. And so they had his commitment.
Okay.
I hope you can be
All
that
right.
kind of leader.
Well, thank you, Dr.
Next.
Vic. And this just draws my attention to the current events that are happening in our country, Nigeria, at the moment, particularly the demonstration by youths requesting for the end of SARS. All right, and I see that the government has responded by withdrawing SARS, by taking on their 5 point demands and promising to work on a better policing process. So, going by this, how do you then categorize the kind of leadership that we have at the moment in the country?
It's right now, if you are using that particular illustration, is a
Yeah.
forced democracy now. Is
Okay.
forced because
Okay.
But okay, you can just say they were being democratic, but we know that this is a decision they could have taken since without being pushed to take that decision. Say
Okay.
yes, if you isolate it, you say it was a democratic decision, but we know that it
o-
came about through a revolt of the people.
Okay.
You can avoid that kind of revolt by doing what is right from the very beginning.
All right.
So let's
Ah,
go to the next slide, please.
okay. All right. So that's thank you for that. It's eye-opening, and I'm sure that our listeners are part and parcel of this and are gaining from what you are saying. So the next slide is on, and
Okay, that's what I
I hope.
was trying to explain earlier. So let's just go here. Let's talk about let's move on. I've explained this already. So let's move on.
Okay. All right.
Now, when you talk about dissonance, I've talked about resonance. Let's talk about dissonance. For dissonance, these are the leadership styles that could possibly cause dissonance. Pace setting. When a leader
Mm,
holds high standards for performance, is obsessive about doing things better and faster. Please note the word obsessive,
mm,
because reading this you say as a leader, am I not supposed to hold high standards for performance? Am I not supposed to want people to do things better and faster? Yes, but it shouldn't be an obsession where it can kill you don't mind the people dying in the process
yeah.
of trying to reach that goal. All you are bothered about is the goal and not the person that is working towards achieving that goal. When you are too obsessed about them doing things the right way and you don't know how to empathize with them based on the challenges or barriers they might be facing, then
Yeah.
you create dissonance. It can leave employees feeling pushed too hard and leaders appear not to care about themselves. So these kind of leaders are described as driving. That's they push you and push you and push you. It's good to push, but you must push with understanding. You must push understanding the makeup of the particular person you are pushing. Maybe one day before the year ends, we'll take a session on how you shouldn't send dogs to Eagle School. Don't send
Mhm.
dogs to Eagle School. So when you are pushing a dog to fly,
Okay.
you're putting too much pressure on that dog, because by the makeup of the dog cannot fly. And then you are forcing an eagle to walk on land only. So you see, sometimes we push on our employees or the people we're leading without considering how they cope. I am a victim of that. I had someone who volunteered in my organization, very good writer, very good at doing things. She can obey instructions, but she's not very good at open rebuke,
Okay.
and rebuking her harshly. And
Mm.
I rebuke harshly, and I expect people to understand. But it affected her so much, she left the organization. It was later when I tried to find out why, she now told me that she felt I was getting angry at her for no reason at all. And we had to, and I expected that if she didn't understand why I was talking to her, she could have asked me, because in our organization, we create that platform usually on Monday mornings where people can air their views about things. And it's an open door policy. You can walk in to my office at any time if you need to talk about something bothering you. But I needed to understand she's not a very outgoing person too.
Yeah.
So it's usually difficult for her to talk about how she's feeling. If I had taken that into consideration, I probably would have handled the situation better. I have tried to mend fences, but it taught me a lesson. And that's what it means here. Sometimes you're pushing people beyond the limits they are even willing to go. They're only willing to grow to a particular point. But because you're a leader, you feel you want the best for them, you push them beyond bounds. And sometimes they break or they just run out on you. Next slide.
Okay. So this just before I take the next slide, just as you were speaking, it just reminds me of a couple that I know of. Actually, they are separated right now, and basically because the husband always expects that the wife does things better and faster. In fact, he defines it in his own style. And he's confronted me a number of times to say, when I was occupying a leadership position somewhere, and to say I was being too soft, I was being too listening to the people. I should, he suggested one time, I should just take a decision and impose it upon the people. And I thought that wasn't appropriate. I thought that wasn't right. And incidentally, it transfers that even to his home. And at the moment, the wife couldn't cope with that and to part away. So I'm just, I wish you were listening to this. Perhaps you would get a clearer picture and understanding of what it means to actually live in this regard. Thank you, Dr. Vic, for this example. All right. So
Okay.
the
Uh,
next
okay. And this same pace setter has exceptionally high standards. Can you hear me?
yes, I can.
Okay, exceptionally high standards, impatience with poor performance, readiness to take over for people when they get into difficulties. You know, that's one thing a lot of us do. You give someone a job and they are not doing it the way you want to do it, you just go and take it over. We do that to our children, we do that to our friends because you feel they are wasting your time, but you have lost a valuable time to groom that person, to put the person through, because that person will still meet that kind of barrier later on. So if you had helped the person, if you help the person to cope, if you help the person to cope, to if you show the person how to overcome that particular barrier, then you find out that the person will be faster next time. But every time you keep jumping in to take over, you find out that the person will develop an attitude of just dragging, because they know that somewhere along the line you are going to come and take over. So what is the need in it? Why should I even bother? They will soon come and take over this thing. So and that affects the self-esteem of the people you're working with or the group you're leading. So we need to be careful. Eh? When your employees are already self-motivated, highly competent, and don't need much direction, then you can afford to be pushing them like that. But a lot of us grow through the ranks in our jobs, and we need to understand that. Next slide, please.
And to say that it's not just through the ranks, through the families. That's how a number of us have been trained that parents just come and take over the job when they think you are not doing what you ought to be doing. So some of us
Yeah.
run life in that regard on daily or constant
Okay.
basis.
Thank you. And then there's a decimal style, which is by commanding. You expect them to do it because you say so. We do that a lot to our children, right? Go and do it. Daddy, why? Don't ask me any stupid question. Just go and do it. So, we've said on this program that if we don't realize that leadership starts from the home, we might just look at it as a concept that is for out there, and we don't start from the home. It's the best place to practice your leadership skills anyway, because if you make your mistakes, you can correct it in the confines of the home before you go outside. So, these people who lead by command, they rarely use praise and they criticize employees. And this type of bosses are becoming dinosaurs. In other words, they are becoming extinct. Nobody wants to be that kind of boss. So if you're still that kind of boss, you are in the dark ages and you need to groom yourself. I don't want anybody to feel bad by going through this, because sometimes as you are going through this, you'll be feeling hurt. You'll be feeling some things will be jumping at your face, some mistakes you've made. That's the essence of learning, that we realize where we went wrong and correct. In fact, there are a lot of people who have worked with me that if they see that I'm the one doing this presentation, they'll probably say, hey, is she the one saying this? She has learned. That's because I have learned over time to be a better leader. And that's the essence of teaching. And I think that makes me a very good trainer on this topic, because I have real life experiences that I can share with us. Now, And you see, this attitudes may survive for a very long time. They might achieve financial goals, but have no regard for long-term human or organizational costs. That's, we're achieving our goals every time, we're meeting our sales targets every time, our customer base is top, but the staff are burnt out. The staff are
Mhm.
not happy. The staff are frustrated. The people whom you're relying on to achieve these goals are achieving the goals because there's so much pressure, but inside they are not happy. So that is a state of dissonance, a state of not being in, should I use the word harmony? Dissonance is, when there's no harmony between, you're not happy inside and happy on the job. You're just achieving on the job, but deep down inside, you're very uncomfortable and you wish you had a better job. Next slide, please.
Well, I've known Madam Vic for over 25 years now. Um, I haven't seen this side of you, so perhaps there are things that I've not known regarding you, so I need to learn some more.
Okay. Um, 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 Chainsaw this was the owner of Dunlop, right? And everybody says that was his style. That was his style. His style of leadership was by command. And eventually you can see this, this is a what do you call it, a newspaper post or a news headline that says chainsaw R gets caught. So they said the corporate cutthroat has been shown the door. After a while, people will get tired of that your leadership style, and you become irrelevant in the scheme of things because you're refusing to change. Please note what I'm saying. Refusal to change is different from not knowing that there's a problem. When you know there's a problem and you are refusing to change, then that's where you might have issues. Can we move on? Please continue. It's still about the commanding style. These leaders drive away talent. Great. Uh-huh. Those with bad bosses are 4 times more likely to leave than those who appreciate the leader they work for. So, people quit people and not jobs.
Mhm. Sure.
People quit people and not jobs. Most times, people would find a way around their job, but if they have a boss that they just can't cope with, they will quit. And that's why sometimes you see people leaving a so-called lucrative job, and everybody's wondering, are you mad? Why are you leaving that kind of job? But sometimes it's because they can't relate with the boss they have. So let's move to the next one, please. Thank you, Shedra. Great
No problem.
managers play chess, while average managers play checkers, what we call draft in Nigeria. And it's called from what great managers do. And then you ask, why? What's this analogy? What are we trying to say here? You see, chess is a game of calculation. Eh? Chess is a game of strategy. Chess is a game of thinking. In draft or checkers, all you're interested in doing is killing. And the way you go about the killing itself, you hit it, pa, 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 so that the person feels the pain of what you are doing. But you see, that's what an average manager will do. He's not thinking, you pick four of the person's game, and without knowing that the person is going to pick like six of yours. You're not strategizing. But a game of chess is probably slower. Sometimes a game of chess can last a whole day or two, but it achieves better results because even in the process, the two players are learning. They are learning how to strategize, and that's why a lot of people would advise that we teach children how to play chess early because it helps with brain development and helps them to strategize and think better. So let's don't be a draft player, a checkers player, uh, Shedra.
Okay.
Now, the CEO disease, the information vacuum around a leader created when people withhold important information, wanting to be, the one in charge of all the information. Sometimes This disease, this vacuum is not caused by the leader himself, but by the people he has put around him. Hmm?
Mm.
And this vacuum is both ways. They block the CEO from getting the real gist of things, and then they also, hello, Shedrack,
I can hear you.
can I get back to the other screen? It's better for me. Thank you.
Okay.
So uh, they block the leader from getting information from outside, and they also
Mm.
block the people outside from getting information from the leader. Like, let's look
Mm.
at our political leaders. Sometimes a governor has people around him who block him from the realities of what is happening in the state, give him
Yeah.
a false view of what is happening in the state. And then even when he tries to get information out, they still block it. They block
Mm.
access. You understand? And that
Mm.
can cause a lot of problems. And it's usually an unpleasant feeling because the people you are leading will feel alienated from you. They can't reach you, they can't get from you, and that can be very, very depressing for them. Let's go to the next slide. The higher up the ladder a leader climbs, the less accurate his or her self-assessment is likely to be. I know a lot of big guys don't want to hear this, but that's the truth. The higher you go, the more you block yourself from the people who would actually tell you the truth about your performance. And if you're not careful, if you're very successful in your field, there's a tendency for some pride and ego to come in, and and then apart from that, when you're doing so well, people don't bother about criticizing you. You only hear praises, and that can affect your self-assessment. The last time I was told what was really happening was the day before I became president of Texas Methodist Hospital. That also explains the CEO disease, right? That nobody, but before he became president, he knew all the problems, he knew how to solve it. But when he got in to becoming president, he said the last time he was told what was really happening. So people were telling him what they thought he wanted to hear. And that will affect his leadership. I hope you know that. And that is what is happening with a lot of our politicians. The people around them are telling him what they think they should hear, because it also massages their ego and helps the ones telling secure their jobs, right? Give a false impression that all is well when all is not well. Most people overestimate their abilities, but the very poorest exaggerate their abilities the most. You see some people who have not learned anything, feeling that they have arrived. How you know that that person has a problem is the results. Check for results.
Mm.
What are the results? The person what has the person achieved? If the
Mm.
person is not achieving more, then the person is suffering from CEO disease. And some of us, particularly in my country, Nigeria, we like that title, being called the Oga, the CEO, and people who are calling you Oga are probably earning like 4 times more than you. And like the cab driver will always call you Oga, but it's probably making actually is the
Exactly.
Oga now. Let's move on.
So, is there
Can
probably
we
a cure for this?
okay? No, let's move on. When
Okay.
this Let's move on. Leaders and learning. Old leaders can learn new tricks and can make life altering changes in their styles. I know this goes contrary to the popular saying that you don't teach a dog, an old dog,
Yeah.
new tricks. That is not true. That is just a saying. And there are a lot of sayings that have been going on that are not true sayings.
Oh, sure.
It's just a group of people who got old and could not learn what they wanted to learn in old age, and they just ended it by saying you cannot teach an old dog new tricks. That's not true. Old leaders can learn new tricks and can make life altering changes in their styles.
Yeah.
You can actually decide to be a better person. When it comes to leadership, there's no end to it. Remember, there's also personal leadership. There's you leading yourself. And the truth of the matter is that whatever leadership style you're portraying outside, you are also doing it to yourself. So you find those kind of leaders are very hard on themselves. That's the leaders by command. they pace setting, they want to achieve, and when they don't achieve, they can easily fall into depression. It is such leaders that kill themselves when they go bankrupt because they have set a standard that is even so difficult for even them to keep up to. And any slight change there causes depression for them. So if whatever leadership style you are putting out, it affects you as a person. So you can learn new tricks. I want to even challenge us as leaders as we're listening to this and thinking through. We should be thinking of what kind of changes we should take. Are we going to go on courses to learn more about how to handle people? Are we going to have a meeting with people in our office to ask them who am I? Even Jesus asked that he asked his disciples, who do people say I am? Because that is assessment, that's getting feedback from people, knowing that this is what people think, and you can even make it anonymous, right? Ask people to write and not put their name and drop it in a box so that you can just pick it up later and read what people honestly think. Don't read it and say this one must have been written by John, this one must have been written. Read it with an open mind and you actually get good feedback for yourself. And if you decide to work on those things, your staff or the people you are leading will also see that you have put in genuine effort to change, and they will encourage you by trying to be better so that you don't have to shout like Victoria when things are not going well. But I'm getting better now. I don't shout that much again.
All right, so I'll clap for you for that. Even though I've not known that part of you all the
Because
years
you
I've
don't
been.
work for because
You
you
say,
don't work for me, and here you are my
eh,
boss. So I the followership mentality is different from the leadership one. Let's move on. We don't have
okay,
much time. Okay, yeah, just put up everything.
okay, so
Just
sorry.
what a leader should put in mind is gone. You need to stop. You need to see. You need to sacrifice. You need to sense. Huh? You
Okay,
need. It's just part of leadership. You need to sense what the people are going through. You need to see what they are going through. You need to stop something that is affecting them. And then you need to
mm,
sacrifice. Sometimes the sacrifice you're making is your ego. Being able to say, I'm sorry, and I think I made a mistake. My decision was wrong. Can we move on from here? That is enough to push your people to do a lot. You can see that sacrifice is a bigger arrow. It's not by mistake, it's deliberate. Let's move on, please.
okay, sorry.
Attention is the currency of leadership. All that we showed in the previous slide, if you are not attentive, you're not able to see, you're not able to sense, you won't know when to stop and you won't know when to sacrifice. Let's move on. Leaders and learning, self-directed learning process. Just list them. Ideal self, what do I want to be? Real self, what am I? And then my learning agenda. It's just, we talked about self-assessment and we say the higher you go, the more difficult it is to do a genuine and realistic self-assessment. But if you want it to really be genuine, these are parts you can follow. What do I want to be? That's where do I want to be? And then your real self, where am I now? My strengths, my weaknesses, the gaps, list them out. Then my learning agenda, what am I going to do to remove these weaknesses and build on my strength? Then
Yeah,
experiment and practice new behaviors and thoughts and feelings. Like I have said before, sometimes it's better to practice this at home
okay,
in a smaller group. Experiment. If you've made up your mind, like Victoria has made up her mind not to shout so much when she's trying to make a point. So I'm practicing that with my children, being able to talk with them and get them to understand why I think this is the way to go and listening to their own views on what they think is the way to go until we come to an agreement. Only on rare occasions do I have to veto, maybe because I have a superior view of what that should be. But most times I give them the opportunity to talk. So if you any leader that follows this periodically, regularly, you find out that you're helping yourself to learn, to unlearn, and to relearn. to learn, to unlearn, and to relearn. Learning is not just getting new information, it is removing the old, like what we talked about, old dogs, not learning new tricks. A lot of us already have that mentality. You need to remove it because once you have that mentality, you can't achieve much in old age. You will not want to learn new things. We could just be the key to the change in your life. So you need to unlearn that thing and and relearn or learn a new thing, which says there's no age to learn new tricks. Right? Let's move on, please.
Um,
Yeah,
can you hear me?
yes, I can.
Okay, your line was a bit faint. I don't know, perhaps network situation, but it's okay.
All right.
I think we've gotten the draft of what you're
So
trying to come.
So you develop supportive and trusting relationships that make change possible. Have friends that you know have better, maybe have a better insight to certain things. Friends who will support you and tell you that this path you're treading is not actually right, and friends who probably have strengths that you don't have, so you can tap from them. Even as little as people who you can borrow books from, books on leadership, books on emotional intelligence. As little as that seems, having a friend who has a very vast library can change your life because of one or two books you would read. So have a supportive and trusting relationship with people as much as possible. Next slide. The best kind of learning agenda helps you focus on what you want to become, your own ideal, rather than someone else's idea of what you should be. Remember, we're trying as much as possible to remove dissonance, right? And dissonance will come when you are struggling to be what people want you to be as against what you want to be. I want to be a musician. My father says I must be a lawyer. Now, there's some dissonance there. Shadrach is a lawyer by training, and now a life coach by choice. Probably if he had started life coaching a long time ago, he wouldn't have had to go and spend all those years studying law. But oh well, it's still an advantage. Better late than never. Being able to realize early and moving on. That I'm sure if we ask you, Shadrach, you are in a better place now than when you were just practicing law alone. Am I right?
Sure, sure. Very well.
Okay, fine.
You're correct.
All
And
right, so let's
absolutely
move on.
okay. All right.
So you remember I talked about practice, right? Remember
Yeah.
I talked about practicing. What you want to become will not just happen overnight, and you will make mistakes in the process of wanting to become. Typical
Mm.
example, I get up and I say today when I go to the office, it doesn't matter what they say, I'm not going to shout at anybody. I'm just going to be calm. And as I get to the office, the first thing that the office assistant does just makes me wonder where these people are coming from. And then I start and then I remind myself and I go, maybe I even shout, Jacinta! And then she's coming, wondering what she has done. But before she gets to me, I remind myself and then I calm down and I say, okay, I'll talk to you later. Don't worry about it. So that I can be in a better position. And sometimes I was too quick to react. If I had given 1 more minute, I would have understood why that thing was where it was. So you keep practicing, rehearse new behavior at every opportunity until it becomes automatic.
Mm.
Next slide, please.
So we'll keep praying for Jacinta and the other staff and hoping that
No, I'm sure if they were here, they would tell you that they have a wonderful boss now. Now, you see, athletes spend a lot of time practicing and little time performing. I hope you
mm,
know for athletes, they practice more than they perform. For one race, an athlete can
mm,
spend hours, can spend the whole year rehearsing for something that will take place at the end of the year, just for one race. They spend more time practicing. As leaders, we need to develop that attitude. We most times we don't practice. We want to spend more time performing without practicing, and sometimes we get into trouble.
I agree with this point. I watched a documentary on Usain Bolt, and the
Yeah,
number of
actually, it came
months,
to my mind when I was
uh
saying this.
the number of months he had spent rehearsing or training for a race marveled me. And the
Mm.
race normally doesn't last up to 10 seconds. It's just
10
9 seconds
seconds.
and it's done. Yes. And it's
Yes.
amazing that he spent months not only training, but even watching what he eats and when he sleeps. So I agree with you when you raise that point, and I think leaders ought to start training themselves to be able to behave in the manner that they want to see themselves behave in. So thank you for that point. Just to agree with you.
Okay. Building one's emotional intelligence cannot and will not happen without sincere desire and concerted effort. So it doesn't matter how much we're training or teaching people, you as a person have to make up your mind that you need that change, you need that shift, and then it will get better. I'm waiting, Shedrack.
Okay.
In your daily conversations, ask questions rather than making statements. Keep stories about yourself to 3 or 4 sentences. Don't dominate conversations. Don't be the one only talking. No, you can go on, Shedrack.
Okay.
Most leaders aren't suffering because they cannot solve their problems. They are suffering because they cannot see their problems. If I don't believe there's a problem, then there's no way I can go about solving it. We already have problem solving skills, but problem identification is a problem for a lot of leaders, and you need to train yourself to be able to. And sometimes it is your staff that will tell you the problem, not you. You might not be able to see it. Next slide, please.
That's
I'm done,
all of the
right?
slides.
Am I
Yes,
done? Okay.
that's what I can
So
see from
yes, yes, I am. I am. I was enjoying the training so
of,
much. I didn't even know, but I think we can round up very well on this note that um, if you're able to identify a problem, if in the course of this maybe 50 minutes you've been able to identify certain issues as we were talking, then you might just need to sit back. That means you have been able to see the problem, and you need to sit back and begin to think of how to solve the problem. But I don't want people to be depressed or unhappy with themselves and feel I can never change. This is how I am. That's not true. That is a defeatist mentality. Every single one of us has the capability to change once we make up our minds that we want to change. So on this note, I'd like to hand over to Shedrack. I want to say thank you for this second opportunity to speak to people, and I hope I've been able to impact you one way or the other. I'll probably come back, like I said, if my boss Shedrack, um, if he commands me to, as usual, I'll be here. That's Shedrack's style. He commanded me to be here, and I didn't have a choice. So thank you, everybody. See you some other time. Shedrack, you have the floor. Thank you.
thank you so much, Vicky, for this. Thank you so much for the insight that you've shared with us. It's been quite eye-opening, quite rewarding, and I appreciate you for this. Now, I needed to, so for the house, Dr. Vic, and I'm using that term, Dr. Vic, just because it's well on platform. I would have called out some other names that I usually call her. But I needed to get her to do this because just 2 days ago, she was already complaining about certain issues, her health, the other jobs that she has ahead of her, and on the probably the lack of preparedness that she would require to do this. But I insisted, and I am grateful that you heeded to my call. I pleaded, actually, I didn't command you. I pleaded, and you are with us and to share your insights. And I would say for me, it's been an eye opening session, like I said earlier. And I'm sure that for so many other people, this is an eye opening opportunity. I would like to um, say a big thank you to you and to everyone who has stayed online with us and to everyone who has taken time to view this. Certainly, certainly, Dr. Vic will come back some other time. I'll give you a week or 2 weeks break, and thereafter, probably in November, you would have to come back. So I'm giving you an advance notice, and I'm also letting you know that you have to prepare ahead of time so that on that day, even if you were on a sick bed, you've just got to do this for us. It's quite
Nah, I
helpful,
won't be sick.
is quite refreshing. Thank you for your faith on that. It's quite refreshing. Now, just before I draw the curtains, this weekend there will be a Zoom training for those who are interested. It's been on Facebook. It's been on so Facebook on my page, Shedrack Bako. It's been on b.t.lead on Instagram. It's also been on this.is.shedrack on my own personal page on Instagram also. It's also on LinkedIn, it's on Twitter, the flyer, that is what I mean. So you can go read the flyer. It's also on WhatsApp. So if you read any of the numbers on WhatsApp, any of the numbers that is going by the scroll bar, if you take on the status bar of any of the WhatsApp numbers, you will see the flyers for that training. I will be pleased if many of us go for that training or attend or register for that training because, again, it's supposed to help us understand the myth concerning leadership. Dr. Victoria just made a comment about certain things that have been said that we've held on to for life and thought they were correct. But we've come to realize that they were statements by perhaps some lazy people who didn't want to work or didn't want to do certain things, and they came up with a phrase like, you can't teach a dog, an old dog, new tricks. Of course, now we know that old dogs are learning new tricks by the day. So this is what we want to debunk as far as the myth of leadership is concerned, and we would encourage you to register and be a part of that program. Once again, let me say a big thank you to everyone. And this is a note, I think, for Dr. Vic. I'm sure you can see the comment. Thank you, Umar Kaltume Yusuf, for listening, and thank you for your comment. So I throw this commendation to Dr. Vic, and I know that you are beginning to have fans around. So when they begin to raise you up to the next level, I'm with you. Please carry me along. Thank you so much for time. All right. Do you have a parting word just before we close so I can allow you to do your parting word
I
before we
think
close?
just what you stressed that old dogs can learn new tricks. I think for even me, I didn't think about that before today. It just came up in the course of the presentation. But I think it's something we need to take seriously because for a lot of us, we've given up and we think we know all we can know. But we do something, charge yourself, learn a new skill, learn how to swim, learn how to play the keyboard. Do something you've always wanted to do because
Yeah.
old dogs can learn new. I'm not as old as Shedrack, but Shedrack, I'm just telling you that you can learn new skills. You can probably even grow hair on your head again.
Okay. Thank you so much, Vic. Let me share this. I'm a slow reader, but Dr. Vic just challenged me to. I have a pile of books I've marked out for reading this year, and then Dr. Vic gave a huge challenge and a prize that comes with me reading 4 books in a month. I've been able to do that, and surprisingly, Dr. Vic has paid the price, and I'm now taking the next set of 4 books just to let you know. I'm taking the next set of 4 books so you can begin to prepare the prize ahead of time. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Peter Genome Stephen, for coming online, and thank you for laughing along with us. Do have a wonderful week ahead of you, and I pray that you achieve all that you have set out to achieve, particularly this week. Thank you for your time, and I'm out of here. Goodbye to
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you.